It's a funny place to be, stuck in a seemingly mundane world with an inner knowing that the universe is so much more than our mortal minds can comprehend. Yet we all have the capacity to know peace and our oneness with the wholeness of life. And through these interviews, discussions, and reflections, it is my intention to share this possibility. I'm Ryan Kurczak, and this is the Kriya Yoga Podcast. Hey, welcome everyone to the Kriya Yoga Podcast. I'm here today with a student of the Kriya Yoga Tradition and a wonderful yoga teacher who's participated in the Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship Course, Donelle Mason from New Zealand. And we're going to be talking about today, I suppose, what it's like to be a student in the Kriya Yoga Tradition. So thanks for being here today, Donelle. It's wonderful to see you.
Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Ryan.
Yeah. And just to remind me, was it 2018 or 2019 when you came over to attend a retreat at CSA?
2019, because I started in 2017, and then I think the first year of the apprenticeship was 18, was the first year you ran it. So it would have been the end of the second year, 19, when I came to America. So
Donelle's been participating in this Kriya Yoga process for a number of years now. And before you got involved in Kriya Yoga specifically, you were a yoga teacher and you were involved in meditation, those types of things before?
Yes, yeah. I'd finished my RYT 500 training, and I'd been teaching for a few years, and was just, sort of had got to that stage where I really needed sort of some help. I actually asked for a teacher. I was like, prayed for one. I was like, I've got as far as I can on my own. I need some more knowledge. I don't know where to get it. There's no one in my area. I hadn't found that path that I was looking for. And and I remember coming to that time and thinking, please, I really need a guru. I need a teacher. And funny how that works. You sort of jump online, and I'd booked my trip to India, and I was going to go to a Kriya Yoga thing over there. I thought I'd better find out what this is all about, which is how I came across your videos, and then got into one of those online retreats, and the rest is history, so they say.
And so did you actually end up going to India?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went there for a month, but I didn't go on the Kriya Yoga one that they had. I went up to Rishikesh and stayed in an ashram and did some other stuff. But because I was already by that stage a student, I didn't feel like I needed to cross paths in any way, and was just sticking to, to what I'd been told to do. So I didn't, go on that one.
Okay. And when you kind of compare, I guess maybe your meditation practice, your practice in general, before, and then when you actually started to be involved in the Kriya Yoga path and also participate in the Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship Program, what kind of differences did you notice, or was there one?
I think I was just sort of flapping around a little bit before, trying different. There wasn't really any structure, so it was what I'd learned. It was a few of the meditation techniques, but there wasn't anything specific. I wanted sort of something specific to follow, and these were they were nice meditations, but they weren't the depth that I was looking for. Yeah. Right.
And had you studied the Bhagavad Gita or the Yoga Sutras before that, or before you started the apprenticeship program?
Not in any depth. No. Yeah. I'd picked up the Bhagavad Gita and then sort of put it aside because it was, didn't quite get the story. So not until we got into that first year that I realized that it was that allegory, that it made a whole lot more sense. And, there are a few of the sutras that would come through on our courses, but not in depth, which was, great. Yeah.
Well, since you had an awareness of it, but you hadn't really kind of gotten into it, what was your experience when you began to study? Because we start with the Bhagavad Gita and then we go into the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So what was your experience as a student kind of being introduced to this in a more in-depth way? How did that, affect your practice?
How did it affect my practice? Yeah.
Or just what was your experience learning about the Bhagavad Gita or the Yoga Sutras?
It just made sense to me, like Roy's book and the way that we were going through it, like step by step, like the structure of it, the monthly lessons, like, not trying to read the whole thing and absorb it. It was just like, just take a little bit, just take, a chapter, half a chapter, a few verses, and, explore that. And then the little exercises that you would give, to understand that more. It was just, I just stepped back from needing to absorb all the knowledge to be like, okay, just take it slowly, just, move through this. It's not a race.
Yeah, it's not a race, that's for sure. That's the problem a lot of people have. They find out about Kriya Yoga or some meditation path, and they expect that it's going to do everything, in a month. But speaking to that, what was your meditation program like, or what was your meditation routine like when you first got started?
When I first got started with you?
Yeah.
I was probably up to, I had a record there, but it was just what you told us to do. It was like, every day, every morning. It was probably 20 minutes or so to start off with. It was the Sushumna breathing and the Nadi Shodhana, and just sort of sticking to that and then letting that grow. I'd done the videos, with the online videos, so I had an awareness of what that was. But it was just moving slowly, step by step, through it, and just, like you say, trust the process that it'll unfold as it needs to. So not, going too fast.
Right. And since you've been, in this whole, you've been in the practice for about 5 years now, or something like that. It seems about 5 years, 6 years. I'm curious, how has your meditation changed, or has it, from when you first got started to now? So I was doing once a day, sort of half an hour. I got towards that sort of stage, and then I was like, okay, 45 minutes. Yes, I can do that sort of once a day. And I think I did start to think that I needed to be doing longer. Mm-hmm. And rather than that, I got to the stage where I split it up. So I'd do the 2 sessions, which was quite good. When I came to America, I remember I'd been on the path for a couple of years, and I remember asking you about the higher kriyas and what they were about, and we had that meeting and we had a discussion. They're not really part of my practice. Like, I learned them and they're there now and they're sort of useful, but I really hardly ever use them. So my practice from that start till now probably hasn't changed a great deal. I'm still just doing, Nadi Shodhana and Kriya Pranayama, and got back into Jyoti Mudra because I'd pushed that aside a little bit. So I realized that that's important. So I pulled that back in, but it's pretty basic. Yeah. Like, I explored the depths and then came back to the basics. A lot of people, they get a lot out of those initial techniques, that when you do those initial techniques well, there really isn't always a reason to kind of need to do the higher techniques.
That's right. Yeah.
So as you've gone through this for a few years, you've been doing the same thing. Like, have you noticed changes on the inside? And what, if you have, what kind of changes have you noticed by kind of sticking to this routine and sticking to the simple approach to the process?
Yeah, I think it's not like a change that you notice, but years down the track, it probably is quite noticeable. So
you mean you don't notice it in the moment, you notice it like as...
No. Yeah, that's right. But when I think about sort of where I've always been a pretty sort of stable and sort of settled person, but just much more so now, non-reactive and, life-changing. I mean, massive changes when you think about it, but they don't feel like they have been, because they've just crept into my life and now they are part of my life and it's just who I am. It's reaffirmed all the stuff I probably did know, but wasn't sticking to. So that's the structure, the routine has been wonderful.
Well, and you also have, your own personal history. Weren't you some kind of like ultra marathon runner or something like that?
Yeah, I did a crazy Ironman. It was about 9 years ago. I did some marathons and that sort of thing, because I did do a degree in sport and recreation. So I think I had a lot of discipline already, because you had to get up and do the training. I'm quite a strong person. I raised my 3 children, on my own. So I knew what I needed to do, and I could stick to that structure. And I found that, that you just get on and do it. So, when I was told what to do, it's just like, well, there's the expert. They've told you what to do. You do it. And that's probably that discipline and came from the sporting background. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If only more Kriya yogis were semi-professional athletes, right? Then they would just they would just know what to do and they would do it.
Willing to get stuck in.
Yeah. So I mean, I felt that way before, that a lot of times, having been a little interested in sports and those kinds of things, I noticed that when people were going to like train to go to the gym or train to improve their sport, their activity, they would do it. And they would just need to know how to do it, and then they would go do it. So I just find that helps out a good bit. And then you mentioned, you raised, your 3 kids by yourself as well. And I think it's important to keep in mind that you were able to find the Kriya Yoga path, to practice well, and so on. Even though you were living a normal life, right? I mean, it wasn't like you just like gave up everything and that was it, right?
Yeah, well, it was sort of towards the end of it, because I had my children quite young. So when I came to the Kriya, which was, sort of 6 years ago, they had almost gone. So I did sort of, if you think about the Indian way of life, when your kids have gone from home, that's when you enter into the moksha sort of stage of it. And I really it was the first time that I'd had some space open up in my life where it's like, okay, well, the kids are gone, we went to university, or, my eldest one had gone during high school. So the space had opened up that I could do that. When the kids were little, I think, I don't know, I found the time to run marathons and train hard, so I'm sure I could have found the time to do it had it come in,
Yeah. Well, quick question about that. I have a friend, she has 3 kids and as well, maybe 4 now, I don't know, but she's also a single mother. And what I noticed about her when I would go visit her was, when we were having a conversation, the kids would be loud and running around and like talking to her and trying to get her attention and everything. And myself, who doesn't have children, it was chaotic. I was like, how can you focus on anything? And she was right there with me, as though all this chaos wasn't even actually happening.
That's right.
So I guess my question is, do you feel that experience that you had, raising 3 children on your own, that kind of thing, did that give you the ability to be more focused internally, because you learned how to kind of deal with, I don't know, the chaos around you or the chaos of your mind? I mean, I'm just making things up here.
Absolutely, it did. Absolutely, it built a whole lot of strength, because one of my kids was quite sick often. Was in and out of hospital a lot, and you're just sort of dealing with what came up, and you sort of you still had to get up and go to work and do your training and provide, and you're on a budget because you're on benefit, and so there was you just do what needs to be done.
Right.
So I think that attitude probably gave me some stickability.
Yeah, right. And exactly. And kind of following up on that, how did you, so a lot of people I know that they come to the spiritual path because they want to kind of transcend the difficulties of the world. And I get that. That makes a little bit of sense. But what a lot of people do is they come to the path, they begin practicing meditation, or they begin changing their life for the better and so on. But then life happens, and sometimes things still go wrong, and sometimes things still go very wrong, and then they give up, they quit, because they're not getting what they assumed that they were supposed to get out of it. So I guess from your perspective, how do you see it, in the sense of continuing to practice, continue to study, while relating to just life, I suppose? Like, how do you see it that you continue, that you maintain that forward direction, no matter what's going on around you? That's what my question is.
Because it does. Like, just because I came to Kriya didn't mean anything was different. I mean, like, chaos of life just kept still, rolling around me in all directions. And just last week we had a massive cyclone in New Zealand, and we're still recovering from that. And
right.
I think what the path taught me was just to have that objective distance, if you like, that I can be like, oh, that's interesting. That was an interesting few days without power and water and that kind of thing. Couldn't get to work. So when those what may be derailing things. For many, it's just like, oh, okay, well, what's this got to teach me? What can I learn from here? Can I stay calm and stable through all of this? And I find I can, and it's big shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and relationships and all those testing things, but having that path is what keeps me grounded and stable and able to have that little bit of distance, so I can sort of try and see it from a perspective of what it really is, this drama, this play that's doesn't need to derail me. It's just some karma I've got to work out.
Right. So what you're saying is that you have not experienced that Kriya Yoga has prevented cyclones from appearing in your country.
That's right.
Yeah. Good. Well, one thing that that you completed the Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship Program quite a few years ago, relatively speaking to when it started, and then after the program was over, we kind of continued talking through Zoom, since you are in New Zealand, so it makes it a little bit different to meet up other ways. And I had asked you to write a commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Okay, so I quite enjoyed your commentary, and I'm curious though. When you did that, when you studied it in that way, study it so that you had to actually understand what the words, the Sanskrit was indicating, those kinds of things. Did that change what you were getting out of it? How did that kind of in-depth study and having to write things down and comment on your own on it, how did that impact you?
Yeah, I think you asked me to write maybe the commentary on the first chapter or something, first of all, and it ended up that I did get so much out of it that I carried on and did all 4 chapters.
Well, I was going to ask you to write on all 4, but I thought just just give a little bit at a time so you're not overwhelmed.
First. So I sort of break it down, and I thought, okay, well, let's do it in terms, because there's 4 terms of the school year sort of thing. So I break that down. I thought I'd do 1 chapter per term. And when I sort of got down into it, the best way I could learn was to understand what those Sanskrit words meant. So I would write out the word and then all the meanings that I could sort of find around that word, so that when I read somebody else's commentary, I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I can understand how they got to there, or so that was big for me. It was big to go through that step by step, and really understand, because some of the stuff, other commentaries that I'd read, I'm like, how did they get that? I don't get that out of it. Or there'd be a whole new realization, and I'm like, okay, I see how they got that, but I got this as well, which was really cool. So yeah, a lot in that.
Was there anything in particular that stood out to you that when you were going through the process, you were, I hadn't thought of it that way? Anything in particular about what you were reading, what you were studying, that was just new or gave you a different perspective?
Off the top of my head, I can't sort of think of anything in particular. It just made more sense. Actually, there was one, and it ties into what I was doing with David McGrath with his book, The Yogi's Way. And at the end of his book, he wrote a little commentary, just a few sutras, and it was right back at the beginning, Sutra 5 and 6, which is, the Pramana, Viparya, Vikalpa, Nidra, Smritaya, which are the vrittis, the fluctuations, and the 5 of them. And he recommended that when you're in your meditation and these fluctuations come up, as they do, to label them into one of these categories. And again, that gives you this little bit of distance from these thought waves, because you can be like, okay, well, that's just Vikalpa, that's just fantasizing, that's just imagining, so I can let that one go, or okay, that's memory. I'm just daydreaming now. That's just a memory. It's smriti. So by labeling one of these, these vrittis and stepping back from it, it put that distance in, which I found really helpful, and I still do. So that one just sticks out of my mind at the moment, because I'm kind of currently. So
it helped you by sort of acknowledging, and this is what that vritti is. It allowed you kind of pull back and just be as the self, observing that. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. Yeah. So you can not get tangled up in it. You can be that witness of what's going on. And those vrittis, like they can be, afflicted or non-afflicted. So they could be helpful and they could be restrictive. So, and that ties in with that study of the sutras that we're talking about. So by understanding that, I could bring that into my meditation, and I would do that when I was writing the commentary as well. If something stuck out and I wasn't quite sure of it, then I'd stick with it for a week, and I'd bring it up at the end of my meditation, and I'd contemplate it, and yeah. And I find I go back to that a lot now. Like a few years down the track, there's always a verse or a sutra or a scripture for everything that comes up in life, for every sort of problem and obstacle that you have, and you've got that knowledge there. I think that's what the gyan and that's what the knowledge is. It's there, and you can sort of see what's going on. You can be like, okay, well, what does the scripture say about that? And sure enough, it's always right.
Right. Yeah. So you found that by going through that process, it made you more sort of just really more aware of what is in the texts. And so then you're able to apply it more just as you go through life in general.
Yeah, that's right. And everyday life. And I'll be, driving along thinking of something or you read something and you'll be like, oh, of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, did you memorize the whole thing in Sanskrit?
I am doing that now, actually. I've pretty much done chapter 1. Yeah. But it's a lot to, yeah.
It is. But I remember V.S. Houston, he talked about that one of the most sort of transformative parts of his own practice was sitting down and memorizing the Sanskrit of the Yoga Sutras from the beginning to the end, so that you could actually recite it from the beginning to the end.
Yeah. Well, I thought I'd be able to do that, but then I started last year and realized it's actually a whole lot harder. So I can come up to number 35 or something, but I'm driving to work and I repeat it and try and get it to memory or do one a week or
Do you have V.S. Houston's recordings of okay. I had that on a little cassette tape, and I would put it in my car when you had cassette tapes in your car. And I would just listen to it. I think it's like an hour and a half. It just one to the next, which is good because it helps train you and it helps kind of get you in the flow of sort of how it's spoken and the quality of it. But I think like what you did, which is sort of studying it, looking at the word meanings, I think that makes it easier to memorize because eventually you know what's coming next, meaning you know what like the next sutra is probably about.
And you can start to pick up what those Sanskrit words are, and you'd be like, so there's Vishaya in that one, and that was in that one, and how do they relate together? And
exactly.
I bring them into my yoga classes as well. If there's something I'm particularly working on, I might like quote a sutra and tell them what the meaning of it is, and it's good. Great.
Good. Well, for those folks who've taken the Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship Program and have done the 2 years, and if I have not told you to start contemplating and learning the Sanskrit and writing a commentary on it, as you see, it's a good practice to do. So get on it. All right. Good. Well, before we finish up today, I'm curious, do you have any advice for people who are just beginning to practice Kriya Yoga and meditation? Maybe something that you had some difficulty with in the beginning that you were able to overcome that you could share with our listeners?
Maybe. You're stronger than you think you are. I think that's one of the points that I learned, and when it comes to, to things like changing your diet or doing your exercise or sticking to your routines and that sort of thing, it's like, like rather than when something comes into your mind that distracts you and pulls you away from it, you've just got to have that little bit of discipline there and be like, it's temporary, it's just for this long, I'll just do the exercise, or just don't eat that because it makes me feel yuck, or and have that discipline there around it, and those cravings and those things that try to pull you away, they pass. They just they move on. So if you can sit with that little bit of difficulty, that's going to build your strength as well. And that's going to make you stronger and able to, to sit for longer and to do the things that you know are right, which is, going to make your experiences, move along.
Yeah,
That
good.
would be a piece of advice I would give. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. So you're located in New Zealand, and if anyone needed to contact you, because every now and then I do get requests from people in, like I said, your area of the planet, which I kind of include Australia and New Zealand together. Hopefully that's all right. Are they close enough that I can do that?
It's across the ditch.
Okay. It's closer than to the United States. We'll say that.
We have a friendly rivalry going on.
Oh, okay. Right. That's why I was curious. So if people needed to contact you or wanted to contact you, what's a good way for them to reach you?
Yeah, sure. So I have an email, yoga with Donelle at outlook.com. Donelle is Donelle. More than happy to help if anybody's, wants some, one-on-one.
Yeah. Donelle, she's been in the program since really the beginning, and she's a Hatha yoga teacher. She's led a few meditations for some of the online retreats that we've done, namely the June Northern Solstice retreats, which are done online. If you go to youtube.com/Kriya Yoga Online, you go to the playlists, there should be a playlist that gives meditations, guided meditations. And somewhere in there's a 40-minute meditation that Donelle led, which is really worth utilizing. So this is Donelle Mason. Thank you for being here today, Donelle.
Thanks very much, Ryan.
And I'm just going to stop there, but I've got a question for you. Would you mind if I included a piece of that song that you sent me?
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great recording. I listen to it a lot. So those of you who are still listening, what we'll try to end with is a recording of Donelle singing and playing guitar, one of my favorite chants. So that'll do it.
Thank you.
All right.
This episode of the Kriya Yoga Podcast was made possible by donations from Kriya Yoga Apprenticeship students and supporters of our Patreon community at www.patreon.com/Kriya Yoga.